call the meeting of the City Plan Commission to order at approximately 6:34. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. We will take these minutes one at a time. December 2nd, 2025 minutes. Are there any edits or corrections to those minutes? If there are none, a motion to approve would be in order. You can abstain, Mr. Zadels. Okay, motion made by Director Carrero, seconded by Commissioner Barberi. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, all opposed? Say nay. Ayes have it. December 9th minutes. And just make sure when you speak into the microphone. Go ahead, Commissioner Mancini.
I need to abstain from the December 9th minutes. I was not at that meeting.
Okay, and let the record reflect that Mrs. Dallas is abstaining from the December 2nd minutes. And Ms. Mancini is abstaining from the December 9th minutes, and Mr. Dallas is also abstaining from the December 9th minutes. Okay. So that's correct, Director. So Director Carrero, you should have abstained instead of making a motion on December the 2nd, right? The December 2nd, the first meeting. Oh, okay, okay. I'll just keep you as the making the motion. Don't worry about it. All right, we're on December 9th. Motion, are there any edits to December 9th minutes? Seeing none, a motion to approve would be in order. Motion made by Commissioner Exter, seconded by Commissioner Lampier. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. This is the time for aye. Aye. All those in favor, all those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Next item is the January 6th, 2026 minutes. Is there any edits or discussion on this matter? Commissioner Lampier?
I'm just not certain. They were posted to the website yesterday morning, I believe. And I'm not sure that that's adequate 48 hours for us to vote on them.
That's fair enough.
Is that correct?
On the minutes,
Yes.
I would say the minutes don't have to be posted until you vote on them.
I think Commissioner Lampier, if you're asking that we can continue this to the month of March, there's no harm.
No, there's no harm, but I'm definitely certain that the minutes don't have to be posted until you vote on them because you could change them.
Right. So Commissioner Lampier, I want to just explain something is that I got these minutes from the staff last week and I didn't get around to it until over the weekend or I think Friday morning. So that's probably why.
Yeah, you
can
can
get there on Monday. It's okay. So we can continue this till next month. So can I have a motion to continue the January 6th, 2026 minutes to our next regular meeting in March? Motion continue made by Mrs. Dallas, seconded by Commissioner Mancini. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay. Next item on our agenda is recognition of member for Nicole Renzulli. I do not see her present, so I will continue this matter later on to our agenda. Next item on our agenda is Lake Street Villa. Okay, is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on Lake Street Villa? Please come forward. Please state your name and address.
Siddiq Davies, office address is 289 North Main Street. I'm the owner of the Davies Group, and this is in regards to 33 and 35 Lake Street. All right. The reason why we're here today, Councilman and Councilwoman, because one, we're looking to get the subject property of 33 and 35 Lake Street, which is plot 7, 5 lots, 1478, 1479, and 1480. What we're looking to do is, sorry, because I have a deep voice, so I try to be real cautious about that. Sorry about that. So we're looking to we're looking to configure the 3 existing lots that's there currently into 2 new lots. All right, for the which is basically parcel A, Since the location is zone B1, we're looking to build a single-family home on that lot, once we divide the 3 lots into 2. All right. We're looking to do about 4,800 square feet split each one. I believe all 3 lots combined, or 2 lots combined, comes out to about 9,600 square feet, if I'm correct. Let's see. And also, I believe another issue that we potentially had, even though it's not in a flood area, I believe the street itself, whenever there's heavy rain, the street itself tends to flood, not the homeowner's property. But what we're looking to do when we do build this single family home on this vacant land, we're looking to possibly do a rain garden on the property to minimize the possibility of any water itself creating more issues on the street in terms of flooding the street. So we're trying to avoid that, and now hopefully try to do something where it makes the city of Cranston happy in regards to the rain garden that we'd like to place on the property itself. Any questions?
I just allow you to make your presentation.
definitely.
Okay. Now, Ms. Mancini, you are going to recuse on this
I'm gonna
matter?
Recuse myself on this matter.
Okay, so I would suggest you move to the audience. Okay, thank you, sir. Are there any questions for the applicant regarding this application from my colleagues? I can get started.
Go ahead.
All right. So let me just start with a couple of things. On the page 8 of the staff report, they list certain density levels. And they list that the density of your proposed subdivision is 13.64, which is above the future land use map. Do you dispute this number?
As of right, I don't right now. Just have to check in with, I would eventually check in with my surveyor just to make sure that we're good with that.
Yeah.
But other than that, I personally don't have an issue.
Right.
But if that's a requirement with the city of Cranston, obviously it's something that needs to get done and addressed. And we'll do what we need to do to make sure we meet that.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just asking to see if you dispute it's outlined in the.
Gotcha.
Second come up, and I saw some of the photos presented by the abutters about the flooding that occurs in the area. Now, what you said was how obviously stormwater is an issue and that some stormwater can become an issue. I'll phrase it that way. You want to address it with a rain garden, you said?
Correct.
Okay.
Which will basically during heavy rains, obviously there'll be a placement for where the water should drain down to, and obviously the land itself soak up as much water as possible versus spilling over onto the street and creating more issues, since that's already a known area for flood.
Okay, so what I want to ask you about that stormwater management plan is, why haven't you presented it as part of this application?
Which is something that just came to my attention in regards to once I submitted everything over to the city of Cranston. And then on top of that, initially, we didn't realize there was an issue in regards to the area where a flood specifically in that area. So something like this is pretty much new to our area. When I spoke to my surveyor, he said the area wasn't in the flood zone. So technically, we thought that we're pretty much fine in regards to that. But since this has been brought up to my attention, obviously it's something that's new, and it's possibly an issue that I don't think the city of Cranston could pretty much mitigate the issue, right? So, and I was told that each houses in the neighborhood are supposed to manage their own way of controlling the flood that occurs in the area. So one of the things that we'd like to do is basically create a rain garden to help out with this, to help with the city of Cranston, try to resolve that issue for everybody in the neighborhood as well.
And who would review, you haven't submitted the stormwater
Mhm.
management plan with this application, but you're saying you want to subsequently submit it at the next stage, I believe. Who would be reviewing that? Would that be DEM or would that be the city of Cranston?
If I'm correct, it's either, most likely might have to be DEM. Obviously, it won't be DEM. So will it be the city of Cranston that will review and make the final decision for you guys?
Yeah, what he's referring to is, it's not gonna help the drain. What it's trying to do is minimize any additional runoff from whatever he proposes on that property is what's gonna be addressed by the rain garden. It's got nothing to do with the actual city area. Right now, there's approximately 200+ acres of land all up near the Laurel Hill Avenue that drain down onto Cranston Street, continue down Cranston Street, some of these side streets, and ultimately make it down to the Spectacle Pond when the drainage system is overtaxed. So when he's referring to putting in the rain garden, that would really just adjust so that his property does not add any additional water to that flooding issue. But he himself is not responsible for addressing that flooding issue, nor can he correct that. That's a significant problem that the city of Cranston needs to continue to work on to see how we can make that better for those areas, because that's not the only street that happens, but it does happen on several streets when we have our systems taxed with high intensity, short duration rainstorms.
Thank you very
Okay.
much, Frank.
Thank you. He's the Public Works Director, so that's why he's on this commission. So my understanding then is that, I understand that he is responsible for mitigating the storm water runoff on his property so that it does not have new additional net runoff. I understand that. Second, it's the city of Cranston, the Department of Public Works that will be reviewing that mitigation plan, not DM. Is that right, Director? Okay, so I understand that.
Thank you, Steve.
And who do you plan to, do you know who you plan to retain to develop this stormwater mitigation plan that would demonstrate there is no new net runoff?
I'm going to use my general contractor, who's going to basically oversee the project itself, and I'll make sure that some of that gets addressed while we're building the property also.
Okay. All right, you answered my density question. Stormwater runoff. Are there any other questions anyone else has before we turn it to staff and then we have public comment? Okay. At this point, I think, thank you, thank you, sir.
No problem. Thank you.
We will now hear from the staff. Can you please provide an overview? And then we will hear from the public.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Should I
This
have a
is-
seat, Mr. Fraser, or?
Yeah, you should take a seat and then if we have further questions, we'll
No
ask you to
problem.
come up
Thank
and then
you.
we'll have public
No
comment.
problem, thank you.
This is a property owned by Michael Basha and Don Basha. The applicant of this project proposal is Sadiq Davies of the Davies Group. The location is 35 and 33 Lake Street. We are in the B1 zone, and the proposal is to reconfigure the 3 lots that total 9,600 square feet into 2 4,800 square foot lots, where the existing 2-family will remain on one 4,800 lot, and a new single-family dwelling is proposed on the other 4,800 square foot lot. We can see the 3 parcels here. There's a driveway currently on each side of the existing 2-family home. Another aerial view. Here's the zoning, B1, and single and 2-family residential for future land use, less than 10.89 units per acre. I included both of the radius maps, which are also in the staff memo. And I have a zoomed in version here of the existing conditions where you can see both driveways and the shed have been added. Here's the entire existing conditions. And now the proposed conditions, a little bit more zoomed in. Where you can see in gray, that dark gray is a new proposed driveway on the new parcel for the new single family home. The planning analysis states consistency with the comprehensive plan. Because this proposal mirrors the existing use, density, and character of the development in this neighborhood, it is consistent with the goals and policies of 2024 Comprehensive Plan, specifically Goal Land Use 6 and Policy Land Use 18. The proposal is generally consistent with the future land use map designation for reasons such as the 200-foot, 400-foot, and neighborhood zone analysis all yield that with this proposal added into the analysis, it is still within the limits of the future land use map. So neither the 200, 400, nor neighborhood analysis show anywhere above 10.89 units per acre with this proposal. However, the resulting density of the proposed subdivision itself yields 13.64 units per acre. This subdivision is aligned with the neighborhood fabric, which is essentially two-family and mainly two-family and single-family. Here is the chart that was also in the staff memo, kind of going over what I was just talking about, how the project density does increase the overall density of the area, but still keeps it within the future land use map. And I can address any questions on this chart if there are any. In terms of consistency with the surrounding area, it does not impose undue nuisances, and is not out of character. The proposal is consistent with existing uses and density. The development pattern of the Spectacle neighborhood and this proposal are inconsistent with the zoning ordinance due to lot size, which just means that a lot of the lots in this neighborhood are already below standard. The median residential lot size in this zone and in this neighborhood is 4,500 square feet, while the proposal is 4,800 square feet. So the proposal being slightly above the median of the area. Within a 400-foot radius, there's 71% of the two-family dwellings are undersized lots, and 60% of the single-family dwellings are on undersized lots. And I put the number of those dwellings there. And I also just wanted to point out that there are single-family homes on 3,000, 29,000, and also there are other two-family homes on 4,800 square feet. So essentially, the staff finds this proposal to be generally consistent with the comprehensive plan, the zoning ordinance, and the standards for required findings of fact, and the subdivision and land development regulations, and therefore recommends a positive recommendation to the City Plan Commission. So parcel A with the two-family house would be granted zoning relief only for lot size. I just want to make that clear that the only dimensional variance being granted here is for lot size, not for lot width or frontage. For the existing two-family house to be on 48,000 where 8,000 is required, and for the new single-family structure to be on a lot of 4,800 square feet where 6,000 is required, and the recommendation of approval, it comes with 5 conditions: that the applicant submit a stormwater management plan, that there is curb-to-curb restoration, pavement restoration, and the payment of the impact fee, and submission of service, water service and sewer availability letters.
Thank you, Ms. Valcourt. Are there any questions for the staff or further questions for the applicant before I turn it over to public comment? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Lanfear.
I had a couple of questions. One is that you cite land use goal 18 in that approval would protect and stabilize the existing residential neighborhood. Can you just explain to me how you came to that, the facts that underlie that conclusion? How does splitting these lots and allowing the building of the additional house so that they're both on substantially undersized lots protect and stabilize that residential neighborhood?
Brianna has presented evidence that the proposal is consistent with the density of the neighborhood as it is right now. That is her argument.
I'm not trying to put people on the spot, but if it's stated in the report that it does this, and I personally don't agree with that, so I was hoping to find out facts that supported that conclusion that might make me change my mind.
Right, so
So-
the facts are the facts on the existing lot sizes and development in the neighborhood. I mean, any proposal for new development is proposing to build something new, but what's Brianna's analysis concluded that this proposal is consistent with what we find in this neighborhood today. And you could-
Okay, thank you.
There's
And
nothing more than that behind that.
the other question I had was, I believe the number was that 71% of the existing two-family houses in that area are on undersized lots. Lots under 8,000 square feet.
Correct.
This one is going to be on a lot that is 4,800 square feet.
Correct.
Do you have any information on those other dwellings, what those lot sizes are that they are currently on?
Well, if you're referring to like other examples of this, there are other examples of two families on, or you're talking about the 71% of these two-family dwellings that are on undersized lots. Right. There are, within the 200-foot radius, there are also two, well, there's actually, within the 200-foot radius, just to kind of get us, because it's easier maybe to talk about less parcels and within the 200-foot radius than the 40%, 400-foot. There's three parcels that are on undersized dwellings, undersized parcels, right? Within the 200-foot radius. So two-family dwellings are on, there's three undersized lots in the 200-foot radius. Two of them are actually 4,800. Correct. So the same exact as this proposal.
Out of how many parcels? You said there are three parcels. How many parcels in the 200-foot radius? All
How many?
told? Because you said there were three parcels.
Yeah, there's three parcels with two-family dwellings.
And so out of how many parcels?
I only know the total number of parcels in
So
the
you-
400-foot radius off the top of my head.
Okay, so the number of parcels in the 400-foot radius. Looks like if I'm doing the math here right, looks like about 123. Does that sound about right to you?
So there might be 123 lots.
Yeah,
but
I'm
in
just,
terms of like combined lots, there's about 76.
okay, because what I'm reading here from your report is within a 400-foot radius, there are 77 single-family dwellings and 46 are on, okay, 46, sorry, I did the math wrong, and 46 are on lots under 6,000 square feet. Okay, so there's 77 lots, 77 single families. So I think what Commissioner Lampier is trying to get at is how many on a percentage basis, like 3 out of how many or 10 out of how many, like how many are we talking about are 4,800 feet or less?
For two families
Yeah,
within a 200-foot radius.
or 400-foot, either one.
Well, I can say within a 200-foot radius,
Yeah,
there are two
2
out of 3.
out of 3. Okay. And what about the single family? That's 4,800 feet. Do you know?
What's your question?
How many single-family homes are on a lot that is 4,800 feet or less when within 200 or 400 feet?
I don't know.
Don't know. Okay. Okay. But public comment will come in a second. Or you'll be able to ask, we'll be able to ask the applicant in a second. I do want to commend you though, Ms. Valco, for putting this amount of information on the density, because that's something I'm always going to ask. So
Yeah.
by putting it forward, you cut a lot of questions I had, so I appreciate that. I just wanted to follow up on what Commissioner Lampier was talking about, which is the
So just to
lot
kind of go
size
back to
issue.
your question, I don't know exactly how many single families are on lots under 4,800 square feet. But to kind of answer the question in a different way, like to address that issue, is why I provided lots that were significantly under 4,800. So I don't have a total under 4,800, but rather lots even less than 3,000 square feet.
Yeah, I saw that. It's, you said there are, you didn't say how many. So it's just it's the percentage question I think Commissioner Lampier is getting at. It's not the question whether or not there are ones that are below 4,800 feet, but it's whether it's how many of them are as a percentage basis, 4,800 feet or below. That's right.
Enough to make the neighborhood median
In your opinion?
less than 4,800.
Yeah, in your opinion. Okay. Any other further questions for our staff or the applicant? Okay. Did somebody in the audience who was going to say something to me, was it the applicant or a member of the public? Oh, okay. Because if you want to come up and address us, you can. Again, if you heard something that you want to respond to, I'd like you can respond to us.
Yes, I believe the answer that you were looking for, regarding how many two-family and single-family there are in the neighborhood, as well as the percentages on page 9 of 16. It looked like the medium lot size of the B1 zone lots, the spectacle is 4,500 square feet, while the proposed lot size is 4,800 square feet. Within the 400-foot radius, there are about 14 two-family dwellings, and 10 of them are on lots under 8,000 square feet, right? Which
Yep.
is about 71%, right? And then in addition to that, to your single-family question, you have within 400-foot radiuses, there are 77 single-family dwellings and 46 are on lots under 6,000 square feet, which is about 60%. In addition to that, there are also single-family homes in proximity, which are located on lots less than equal to 3,000 square feet. And there are two-family houses in proximity, which are located on lots equal to 4,800 square feet within that neighborhood. So to answer, and this are within the B1 zones, B1 zone lots in the Spectacle neighborhood of Cranston.
Yep.
And yeah, so basically to answer your questions on page 9 of 16, which breaks down the percentage as well as how many total units of single family, two family, and so forth.
Right. And I was going to say, thank you for coming up and saying that. I was just trying to assist Commissioner Lampier and to some extent myself, which is you're reading about the percentage of lots that are below 8,000 square feet, below the zoned. She was asking about how many of the percentages below 4,800 feet. You see what I'm saying? That's a slightly different calculation.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's all it was. And I do recognize that you're saying that the median is 4,500 square feet. So that's basically, I understand what median is as well. So thank you very
Thank you
much.
Mr. Flores.
All right, is there any other questions for the applicant or for the staff before I turn over the public comment? Okay, I see none. All right, thank you. This is now your opportunity for the public to come forward. I ask all of you to please stand up, come one at a time, state your name and address for the record. And speak clearly into the microphone.
Hearing is very bad, so you could bear with me. Oh. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can the rest of my colleagues hear him? Yes. All right, proceed, sir.
Name and address.
President Fry and the members of the Cranston.
You need to state your name and address first.
All right. My name is Ralph D. Bozy, B-O-Z-Z-I. I live at 319 Sherman Avenue, Warwick, Rhode Island.
Okay.
I am the budding owner of the lot left of this park. My ex-wife Paula and my daughter live on the left of my vacant lot. And I know the area, I'm a retired builder. I bought the lot in '77. I bought it, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And one day I went there, and the lot was completely flooded, 4 feet of water in my property. What the hell, what do I do now? I didn't wanna sell it to a person. I said, well, let me build a house for myself, got married to Paula, worked in the city. It's very convenient, we have a house in Warwick, so 6 months there, 6 months there. So more or less, we're living with the problem that was never solved. I have a really strange. My garage floor is 7 feet above the ground of the road, 7 feet. Well, I want to get to this, but I want to see who I am. So I'm a builder, I know the area, and I know the land more than anyone in that surrounding area. So I know the water conditions. It's not the city's fault. Spectacle Pond is level with the road. When it rains severely, the water comes through the manhole covers. I went to Public Works to go, Ralph, don't get us involved, because there's no solution. So when people say, regards to the water situation with downspouts and everything, doesn't happen. You have to have an engineer that knows water conditions in that area. Floodplain, water ponds is one thing. So when people, I don't want to see another person in that area go through what the heck I went through, which I'm still there. I'll live with the conditions. Because all these people here are right around this piece of property. The back, side, and everything. Forget about the percentage, 400 feet. We're worried about the main area, lots 1479, 1480, and 81. Now, Mr. Bosch is a builder, and he's gonna sell it to some other person. If it was a good deal, maybe he would have put himself. So everybody is passing whatever. I don't know. But regards to the duplex, 3235, was built in 1974. Illegally, at that time, you have 3 lots, 40 by 80, 40 by 80, 40 by 80. You combine it to make it 9,600 square feet. And we all agree on that. So now, when Mr. Bosch's father, his family, put the house, hello, can you hear me? I can't hear. Can you hear? Huh? Hello?
Can you hear me all right? And can you hear me in the headphones?
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. So, I know everybody wants to build this, that, and the other. Now, all these people here, this way, and you all come to my wife, she works, is told us, Paula, do something. She calls me up. Says, Dad, do something. I'm over here representing me with the buddy, my wife, my daughter, that's gonna live there, because that's their thing. And I wanna help all these people. They all wanna speak. So now, regards to this 9,600, you're gonna have 8,000 square feet, B1 zone. That's the zone, B1. Single family is 6,000. So when you put a duplex on a B1 zone, you're gonna have 8,000 square feet. Now, you're getting 8,000. Lot 1480 is 40 by 80, 3,200. Lot 1479 is 40 by 80. 32 and 32 is 60. He had to pay part of the other lot to make it work. Now, we have a problem that they want to sell the little 40 by 80. He has to wait, and I asked many times I called, and I still don't have this answer today. I'm very unclear. The questions I asked, I haven't found out yet, because there's no real answer. I've been driving these people crazy, asking them questions, and they say, speak with them. So when you say 71%, 81%, that's good. Forget about the percentages. I'm worried about the lot, the duplex, and these neighbors that are gonna live there until they die or whatever. That's my concern, not the percentage of the neighborhood. This is the neighborhood. And I talked to you last month, and you said the only thing you were concerned is about the neighborhood's opinion. A lot of people say, Ralph, you're wasting your time, you know, whatever. But I'm trying to make the people have a say-so, and I want people to listen, regardless of which way this goes. I'm speaking for my family, the neighbors, as a builder, as a person that suffered on that same street. There's people that lost their cars, company. Every January, we had a party. I had to put cars on people's lanes where you can't get down the street. Now, is it the city's problem? Who the hell knows? The water comes down by Fowley Linen with Hawking, flood conditions. I'm a builder in water. You've got a perk test and all that water flood. This is something that is a major, major problem. And this person here that's applying, the gutters are not gonna go. The pond is higher than the street when it rains. When it floods, all the garbage cans goes in that pond. Am I right or wrong? And that's what garbage in. So we're creating a hardship for the neighborhood, the city, and everything. And all these people want to speak. I wish you could hear them, because I don't want to be the long rangers. And they have issues, and they don't know how to handle this. So I just want to thank you for that, you know. I want to read my piece of paper. You could ask me all the questions. The other builder could ask me questions. Mr. Bosch could ask me the questions. There's water in people's basements. There's houses across the street from my ex-wife's house on 6,000, 4,000. So all these percentages, it's good to make it passable or not passable. We're here to solve a problem, a future of use of what to do with this piece of property. We have 8,000 beautiful duplex, and we're gonna cut it up to put a problem house in a condition that's gonna create. Now, the water comes down and goes in the ground. I put my house on a hill. When you get out of the car, you're gonna put your leg to get out of the car because you can't get up because the house is so high and it's a rain grade. I'm 7 feet above the street. When I built my raised ranch, I hit water up in the air. So there's a water problem, groundwater problem, drainage problem. Now, of all the people don't know. I do this for a living. So I know what I'm talking about. This young lady is a wetland scientist and she knows all about DEM and all that stuff like that. And she even said, Rob, what happened with you? You understand? Now, regards to the land sites, as she said, we're only moving on lot lines. We're moving on lot lines. We're creating a hardship. You've got a conforming duplex on 8. We're gonna make it 48. We're gonna steal the footage from this and that, right? Now we're gonna talk about the 35% right? The B1 zone, 25 feet front, 20 rear, 8 and 8. The duplex has a driveway on the right, the asphalt right. If you talk about the 35% of the density of the lot, it's questionable on the duplex. The density and the use, how is that going to determine this future house? Now, the plan's incomplete because we don't have all the checklists. Soil, water conditions, runoff. He says, well, it's DEM's fault and all. When you build a house here, people don't know. People that buy houses in that neighborhood around the town, they don't know where we're planting it. They come, they buy it and all that. But if people know that area, they keep away from it. Am I right? These people don't know who after the fact.
Just make sure you're addressing us. They'll have their chance to speak.
I'm sorry. So, get back to my, questions, who I am. That's the first thing. I want to thank you, the members of the planning board, you're very patient with me. I'm in opposition, as you know. 3335, right, it's lot 75, lot 78, 79, and 1480. The duplex is on 1480 and 1479. They had to chop it up to make it work. For a 6,000, for a 60-foot frontage. So you have 3 lots, 40 foot, 80 back, 40 foot, 80 back, 40 foot, 80 back. If you go 40 feet from the property to the duplex, right? I measured, my wife and I, my ex-wife and I, we measured in the snow yesterday. And I measured it that the duplex, 3/4 is, he needs all that footage to make a 60 by 80 to make it 4,800. That's not on the plan. Now, when you go to planning over here, I never went to this, it's only here. This basically makes things easier for the builder. So when you go to zoning, they want to know the lot size, what size, they got a proposed square. We don't know what that is. There's no figures on the duplex, there's no figures on the proposed house. I own the property right aside of it, my land, right, level, it goes up 4 feet. I got trees right on the property line with Mr. Borsha and this gentleman's land, and it goes down. I don't have to put a retaining wall, take the trees down on his property and my property. We don't have that on the survey. The surveyor's stamp that says, this is all set, that's all set. Our land surveyor puts the 4 points in, and they've taken this gentleman's word that they're gonna control the water. They looked into it. I looked into it, I got stuck. And I don't want, all these people don't know what to do, because they're not builders. I don't have the answer, and this gentleman don't have the answer, because it's a severe problem. Forget about the percentages, 3,200, which is good. My concern is a headache on that street, a disaster. I built houses in Western Cranston, Dean Estates, I did it all. I never ran into this because I was ignorant to the fact of the property conditions on which. And I don't think all these people were geniuses either. Not that they're smart or stupid, but in other words, no one is gonna have, I don't see anybody suffering on that. Now, you've got a beautiful duplex, and you've got to squeeze another house in, that is questionable. And you're trying to find out 71%, 200 feet, well, I'm worried about that area, that long. We're trying to make the numbers work. You can make the numbers work, good or bad, yes, no, whatever. The numbers are concerned on the existing lot, Boss's property, my property, their property. That is a problem, not about the density, the use, the economic use and all that, which I'm gonna do, to make it look, formal, which is the right thing to do. So I just wanna explain that while I'm reading this, it might answer questions to everybody good and bad. All right. Now, our opposition know that because of these reasons. Right? Now, the lot that he has, there's no elevations on it. Between my vacant lot with the hill, with the trees, there's a big drop. What the hell is it, what's gonna happen? How's he gonna say that? Take all those trees down, a retaining wall, get a granite bound down, right? It's a big question up there. Forget about the density and the percentages. I'm worried about the existing conditions on lot of this building. My testimony to the director, Beth Ashman, I want to thank you. And, distribution to the members of the planning board. When asked what the deadline was for submitting written comments to the commission, right, informed me that the comments mailed were 4:30 at February 2. Everything to the last minute. I'm in this planning board right now. I still don't have all the completions of what should be done for a buildable proposed, a marketing or a zoning problem. I don't know what the heck is going on with the setbacks. Don't know what we're doing. They go by percentages. The density, 10.89, 13.74. It's over and above. Those are important on a regular piece of property. Normal conditions. This is not a normal street, and this is not a normal area. So when you compare 400 feet, they got no water problems. The water goes by car. We're talking 3, 4 feet. That's a lot of water. Rescue squads get stuck in there. People have to get, there's a lot of medical problems. All these people are concerned about safety. The fire trucks can't go down there. And when does it happen? Who the hell knows? Sometimes it rains and it stops raining and it's hours for that water to go up there. It's a bad problem. And this gentleman here, how long you been with the city? Many years, right? Did you ever solve the problem over there? Can it be solved? Now you're gonna ask this builder to go get an engineer to design it. God bless you. You better be God, because God created a water problem, not this guy.
Sir, I never have cut anybody off for public comment in my 4 years. You've been speaking for about 20 minutes. There's a lot of other people want to speak. Could you continue with your written or whatever else so we can continue to proceed?
Well, the thing is, I went there many times to get answers from the court. They didn't have the answers because it wasn't submitted. The plans are incomplete. We just have a piece of paper making a lot line. We don't have any numbers on proposed. Existing, you can't move it, so the house is there. If there was no house there, that's a different matter. Since we have a house that is there that cannot be moved, and you're gonna cheat to make it work for 60 by 80, there's one problem. Now they're making numbers work to make it a 6,000 square foot. We're making it 48. You understand, 4,800 square feet. Now, there's no setbacks on proposed future, whatever they're doing. We don't have the numbers. Elevations, we don't know. So whatever, like stipulation, I have to put a retaining wall, the trees might have to come down, whatever. I don't have those answers, and that scares me. I like to know what the heck we're doing, right? We're trying to make the numbers work with this here. The numbers don't, the conditions you can't use the problem, right?
Oh, sir, we received these comments in writing before the meeting. It's on the website. I reviewed them myself and read them. You can see highlights and stuff like that. If you want to read them, okay, but we do have the document in front of us. And those commissioners that had the opportunity to review it did review it. If you want to read it, go ahead, but I'm just asking you to try to, what you said in your comments, your written comments, if you want to read them out loud, I'll listen, but you're kind of repeating yourself a little bit here with your, you understand what I'm saying? So, and I want to hear from other people as well.
Well, I want to make conditions, right? If the applicant doesn't get involved with it, is it going to be a single family? I don't know. But if there deed restrictions will be filed, you know, it's going to be a single family if it doesn't get approved, right? I'd like to know the setbacks, which is not on there. The surveyor says everything is all set, which I disagree, because there's no elevation, because my property is way higher than his. I don't know how this is going to affect the conditions. And we need an engineer, the stormwater runoff. We're talking a serious problem, right? We don't need more headaches than we have now, that's all I'm saying. And, you know, and the grading is another situation, right? Well, I want to thank you for, you know, for listening to me. I didn't go by the paperwork this far and orally, but if you could read that and put that legal document down for the stenographer, in other words, it may make some difference.
You, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Next person who would like to make, please sign in your name and address on the sign-in sheet so we can
Do I
keep
put
track.
my, where I live or a budding property, how do I do that?
Just put your street address where you live. Okay, next for public comment, name and address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse my voice. My name is Alexandria Kazarian, and I live at 2 Barrett Street. And I am objecting to this plan. My driveway is behind the proposed sale of the property. And I have a dog. And we walk down Lake Street, around Barrett Street, around Marlborough and Gordon Street. I've lived there for 34 years, and I'm very familiar with the area. I agree with what Ralph said about the flooding is ridiculous. I've had water in my basement, and I'm opposed to the way they want to take the land away from the existing 2-family, which I've been in many times. I'm friends with the owner, the tenant, and her cellar floods. Many times I've helped her clean out her basement. My cellar floods. I've had FEMA at my house once. And I have spent thousands and thousands of dollars in 34 years to make my second lot, because I have a front to back 2 lots, to make it beautiful, to put in a driveway, to put up a little stone wall on my property. And the biggest problem that I have is getting out of my driveway. I know there are other two-family homes in the area within a 400-foot radius. And my concern is, I have pictures. I was wondering if you'd like to see the pictures of what happens when a house is put on an undersized lot in that area, especially on Lake Street and Gordon Street. The two-family house, the mom and dad get married and they have children. They have 2 or 3 kids. When those kids get 16, they all get cars. So now you got the mom's car, you got the dad's car, and you got the kid's car. And they park on the sidewalk because there's not enough room in the driveway on these undersized lots. And I spend an extra $7,000 to put in a driveway big enough to handle 4 to 5 cars, and I live by myself. So that's one of my biggest problems is the parking. And when I back out of my driveway, I hit the curb of the proposed sale of that Mr. Bush's property. I can talk a little bit educated about the situation of the water if you want to hear it. If you don't, just say you don't, and I won't go there.
It's your discretion. We're here to listen to you.
Okay. Number 75 and 77 Lake Street is currently vacant, but before it was vacant, that's on an undersized lot, I believe. And there would be at least 10 cars parked in the driveway and on the sidewalk, blocking me from walking my dog on the sidewalks. And I believe that Cranston law states pedestrians have to walk on the sidewalk and cannot walk in the street. And I only know that because I was walking down Gordon Street one day with my cousin, and the house had 5 cars, and they were all parked on the curb. My cousin and I had to walk around the cars. We couldn't walk on the sidewalk, and I fell in the street on a gas cap and broke my right leg. So I know my lawyer had told me, who was my personal injury lawyer, the law states in Cranston you cannot walk in the street. So that was my problem. Then we take 45 Marlborough Street. On the weekend, that's, I believe that's a 6-unit on an undersized lot. They have guests over. They have parking for only 6 cars. So the cars park all over the curb, all over the sidewalks. And my dog and I, once again, we have to walk down the middle of the road. Same thing with number 35 and 37 Gordon Street. And this morning I went and measured when I walked my dog. We went on the street today, and the street was only 12 feet wide. And I couldn't back out of my driveway because of the snow on both sides of the street. I had to go 3 times. So I said, let me measure the street, because I knew I was going to be here tonight. And the street that was passable was only 12 feet wide. I have a senior aide that comes to my house every Wednesday. She can't park on the street. She has to park when there's snow in somebody's yard that plows, and it says, you know, she can park there. Lastly, I put the flooding on how the water comes down, but I don't think I'm going to go there because I think you guys have heard enough from Ralph about the flooding, and it's true. I also lost a car because of the flooding. I have atrial fibrillation. I have a blocked left ventricle in my heart, and I have regular doctor appointments. And I have to schedule my appointments around the weather. That's how bad it is. The water comes up to my hips. And I'm 5'4", so there's a lot of water. And like Ralph said, I'm very concerned about keeping our little neighborhood the way it is without adding more trash to Spectacle Pond. I've lost many garbage pails to Spectacle Pond. And the drain pipes do pop up. And I've had to live my life around that water for 34 years. And I wouldn't recommend to anybody buying that lot and putting a house there. Because I just think it's, this man is going to put a house and he's going to sell it to somebody and they're not going to know. And the problem is going to exist with more cars in the street. Mom and dad are going to buy the house. And I'm not going to be able to get out of my driveway, period. And I took some pictures here this morning. If you'd like to have these, you can, of the cars parked on the sidewalk. And my driveway, how I'm completely blocked in just from the snow plowing. And if there was another house behind me, and they have a car in the street, I can't get out of my driveway. The street's just not wide enough. So if you would like the pictures, I don't know how to get.
Just provide the pictures to the commissioner here and we'll pass it along and become part of the record.
Okay. I thank you all very much for your time and listening to my complaint and my objection. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, anyone else want to make public comment?
I live at 60 Lake Street in Cranston. My name is Richard Biagetti. I'll be short and sweet. The road is a problem. Right where this man is set to build a house is one of the only 3 drains on the entire street where he wants to build his driveway. I mean, is the city going to plan to move that drain, or is it just going to be null and void afterwards? We lost a car a year ago. It's a problem street, and if I would have known 24 years ago what I was getting into, I wouldn't have bought my house. But I find that the house is going to be a problem with the drainage issues, the parking issues, and that's all I got.
Thank you. Next, anyone else wants to make public comment? Please come forward.
Good evening, Mike Delmonico, 30 Beacon Street. I got some pictures to present. Couple of things. In the pictures, you'll see a fire truck that stopped in his tracks. I personally seen him. All the guys jumped out of the truck. They ran to a call, waist high in water. If you ask me, that's not a job that I would want to do. They're out there saving people's lives. That's what they do. They choose to do that. They don't have to do that. They do that because that's in their heart. They want to do it. That shows a lot. Water is a big issue on that street. We all know that. We can't say it enough. The gentleman said that it was not a flood zone. Maybe it's not. I'm not sure. I have one question that I'll rest on. I don't need an answer. I want you guys to think about it. Why is there a sub pump in that house? Why does it not stop pumping? Have a good night.
Anyone else have a public comment to make?
Good evening, Chair, members of the commission. My name is Christina Brown. I live at 217 Arlington Street. I was here actually to speak on the next agenda item, but just quickly, the charge of this body is to uphold the comprehensive plan and the needs of the city. The water issues that these residents are talking about are certainly serious from what I've heard and do need to be addressed. I would encourage everybody to contact your council person and the mayor. But at this moment, the planning staff has given their report about these lots and that these lots are consistent with the neighborhood. And we do need the housing. It is 2026. New construction is built to 2026 building code. We have many checks and balances in place to deal with stormwater runoff, DEM, environmentals, to ensure that these homes are going to be safe and habitable for the residents who would inhabit them if they were to go forward and be built. And I just want to say that if the developers have everything in order, I believe this is consistent with the comprehensive plan, our housing goals as a city. We need new homes. We need smaller homes for working families to continue the legacy that certainly all these residents have had the ability to achieve. That's my comments. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else like to make public comment? First, the public speaks and then the applicant can respond.
Hi, Annette Bourne, 51 Community Drive. I, like Christina, am actually here for the next agenda item on subdivision regulations. But infill, gentle density, these are the things that we continue to try to encourage for smaller starter homes. I really appreciate all of the neighbors coming out. I live near Parkview Middle School, where I think many people know homes were taken by the flood in 2010. And, if the city says these are buildable lots, then it is the city's responsibility to ensure the safety and dryness of all of that neighborhood. Either that or the city should make a good faith purchase of properties that it no longer finds to be habitable. So that would go to everybody in that neighborhood. I've been here when people down, I think, Fordham Road, water up to the 3rd floor. So we definitely have areas that, as we work on the comprehensive plan, we should probably identify as hazard areas that maybe no longer should be habitable. But as long as these lots are considered buildable by the city, then I would hope that we could encourage more infill and gentle density like this. Thank you.
Anyone else like to make public comment?
Hi, my name is Paula Bosey and I reside at 49 Lake Street. And I just wanted to say that I am opposed to this stuff. And there is flood problems. We had many issues. We lost a car a few years ago. And I don't think it's feasible to put another house in that area to create more problems.
Okay. I don't want to repeat about the water, but the water is a big problem. They stopped building. I'm on the lot right behind him. So I've had enough problems with his trees falling down on my fence 3 times this year, and I had to replace that. I have to pay to have these trees cut all the time. I know it's got nothing to do with the water, but the water is a big problem. He starts building, the water's gonna have nowhere to go. It's just gonna backflow into my house. So it's like, it's always been a problem. You can't go down that street. You can't park on that street. They won't be able to get out. Once they're in the house, they can't get out because the street's flooded. So it's every single time it rains. It's not just when it over rains, but it's always been a problem. I've been there long enough to realize the problems and what streets you can go down and what streets you can't. But I don't think it's a good idea at all for this property to go there. It's smaller than all the properties around there. It's the smallest lot on that street. It absolutely is. And the duplex that's already there already gets flooded. So this house is going to absolutely be flooded. It's not a good recommendation. Thank you.
Anyone else like to make public comment?
Hi, my name is Amanda Bosey. I reside at 49 Lake Street in Cranston, and I'm just opposed to the plan.
Any other public comment? Okay, I don't think.
My name's Elaine Sandbergen. I live on 10 Lake Street and I oppose.
Anyone else like to make public comment? Seeing no more in the room. Mr. Lima, is there anybody online like to make public comment?
Councilman Andy Andar.
Please proceed, Councilman.
Good evening, members of the community. Thank you, members of the commission, Mr. President. Thank you for your service, of course. I'm just calling in support of this. I've been listening to public comments. I visited the area. I know very well the situation of the area, but I'm getting to the point where from Gordon to Farragut, there are many homes on 3,200 square foot lots, and this is going to be a 4,800 square foot lot. I also feel that we need to let other people play in the sandbox. And this house with the technology today could be built slab on grade. There's numerous new technologies that could help with the stormwater drains. So I am in full support of this. I am in full support of our planning department that's fixing Cranston. If you look all around the city, especially in Ward 3, you have multiple family houses on 3,200 square foot lots. And I would even go to the point of saying I would support a 2-family house on this lot. I understand the concerns of the neighbors with parking, but I've been here about a year and a half and I haven't received not one complaint or one comment on somebody complaining about parking in the area or flooding. So that's where I'm getting at the comment with let's let somebody else play in the sandbox. So I approve this, I support this, and I hope the commission will support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else who'd like to public application who is online?
I see no other public comment online.
Okay, thank you. We will now turn back. Does the applicant have anything they wish to say in response to the public comment? If you want to, if you don't have to.
First things first, definitely want to thank the councilman. Actually, before the councilman, I definitely want to say thank you to residents of the area for providing your viewpoints and your concerns in regards to why you think the new construction shouldn't be built in that neighborhood. But one of the factors that we are having that we all need to realize is that there is a housing crisis across the U.S. This is an opportunity to be able to provide homes for people who are looking for housing, not an opportunity to minimize opportunity for people. All right, we're here to maximize the potential and totally understand your concerns as neighbors, residents in the area, but with the approval of the city and with the new technology and the things that are provided, houses are built to sustain nowadays. All right, and then in addition to that, the planners, they also overlook drawings and survey plans to make sure that the homes that are being built in these neighborhoods, doesn't matter where it's at, they meet the requirements of the city to be to sustain any issue. Well, I don't want to say any issue, but issues that may occur. Hence the reason why they prefer a rain garden to help maximize so water won't spill on the street and cause more issues. But other than that, thank you very much, Councilman, Councilwoman, and everybody else that's here, as well as those that's virtual, and everybody here, every individual that's from the local area. Thank you as well for your opportunity and your time.
Thank you, sir. Are there any final questions for the applicant before we turn it over to ourselves here? Wait. Any other further questions for the applicant? Okay. Let me see here. Mr. Bazzi, we basically almost ended public comment, but if you have something succinct and concise you want to say, I'll have you come up and say something.
Regards to controlling the water, weather gods and everything.
Yeah.
The city of Cranston Highway Department cannot control it. I don't have the answer. Regards to wetlands, they can't control it. We're talking of severe flooding conditions. Well, it's not like it's like we have, that's a solution. There's no solution. If the highway department in 100 years can't do it, right? How many years you've been there? 1 year. But before you, everybody knows. So it says public comments and checklist. It says public works, no comment. Building inspector, no comment. It might be inconsistency of a nuisance area. We don't have the answer. I feel bad about the housing shortage. I'm not disagreeing, but this is not this is a creating problem of the area of that lot condition. Regards to the shortage, there's a shortage, but we're creating a bigger hardship by not answering these questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bazzi. Okay, we already have the staff recommendation. Could you just put it up on the screen so that everybody knows? Okay. As I understand, Mr. Marcella, this is a two-part process. First is whether or not to grant relief under the zoning provisions.
Yep, correct.
And the second is, of course, whether or not to grant approval for the subdivision, correct?
Two separate votes.
Two separate motions, okay. Is there any discussion we want to have before we start going in? Go ahead, Commissioner Lanfear.
I'm a little bit confused. I'm looking at the minor subdivision checklist that was part of the materials. And what is checked off is preliminary plan. Are we doing a preliminary plan approval this evening?
Yes.
Okay. Unified Development Review is not checked off on the checklist, but I realize that that is part of this evening's proposal as well. When I look at the checklist and go through it, there are a lot of requirements, required elements that are just blank.
So that is typical. The checklist is everything that could possibly be required of any proposal in that category in the city of Cranston. So it is common for there to be items on the checklist that we don't end up requiring. For example, today, the issue of slope was brought up. In this case, we're not allowed to consider slope in the decision of subdivision. So we as staff use that checklist as a guided tool of all the possible things that we might need to think about. But it's typical to have many of them not be required for a particular application at this stage.
So would it also be correct that if this is a minor subdivision, but it's a minor land development preliminary plan?
It's not a land development plan, it's just a minor subdivision request. So in this case, you know, first, they would need relief because it doesn't meet our zoning. Second, there's approval of a subdivision. And then after that, they would still have to do, they wouldn't normally hire a, stormwater design engineer or design the house till after they have subdivision approval. In a case like this with a one-family subdivision, they're not going to invest in all of those.
So would we be approving a preliminary plan this evening that doesn't include slope, doesn't
Correct.
include contours?
Correct.
Doesn't include a soil analysis? or
Correct.
Other things that may affect flooding and be a general welfare issue?
Correct. It's just looking at the lot size. I'm interested, after all that I'm hearing today, I'm like, why is this not in the floodplain? Because that's, we use the FEMA floodplain maps. And I'm hearing and seeing in pictures a lot of flooding, but even the, I don't know if Jonas wants to, where's Jonas here? If you want to, you are a master of all checklists. Maybe would you like to comment on that question of why there are not everything on the checklist is checked off?
I personally haven't reviewed all of the items on this checklist, but it is, as you said, it's pretty standard that because it very often depends on if this is a subdivision or land development. It depends on the scale. It depends on the the environmental conditions. Typically, for example, like a soil analysis would be very important if they wanted to put in a septic system, but they're requesting to be connected to public sewer. Or slopes would be important if it was, I guess, a larger lot, or if it was like a multifamily development and there are steep slopes involved, it would affect how it would be designed. Or even if it was a smaller development with like a street extension, the slopes would be very important because that would determine how to design the subdivision around those slopes, especially if there's steeper slopes.
Here, if I may just turn the question over to Brianna, do you feel like all the elements that are relevant to this application were received?
Yes, I do feel as though all necessary documentation was received for a preliminary plan. And upon issuing the certificate of completeness, they had all required information and documents. After issuing the certificate of completeness was when public input started coming in about the flooding issue. I did know that it was not in a flood zone, but I received all the input about flooding after issuing the certificate of completeness. In which, at that point, one of the conditions of approval for preliminary plan became that maintenance of stormwater. So
I'm not sure, was that a requirement or a suggestion? The way it was worded, I wasn't certain.
well, I recommended a positive approval with the condition that in the approval of preliminary plan that they submit that they submit a plan to manage the stormwater. So final plan will not be approved until there is a plan for managing stormwater.
I will say that preliminary plan is an important step because then an applicant is vested with the right to go forward. And I would agree with you that some applications may be different from others in terms of what information must be provided in terms of scope and scale and all of that. But I think that based on what we've heard tonight, there are some things in that checklist and information that we don't have that I think, at least for me, is really important to making a decision at the preliminary plan stage. Location, size, use, type of proposed buildings and structures, all number of residential units per building, all accessory structures, building setbacks, and total lot coverage. I think that total lot coverage, even impervious surface area, is important because of the flooding. I think the soil type is important because of the flooding issues. It might not be in other cases, but I think as I look at this list, and I did not go through it before this evening, there are a lot of pieces of information that I think would be helpful in making an appropriate preliminary plan determination.
And I think, if I may add a comment to that, someone else also raised impervious surface coverage. This is something that I think is a major omission in our regulations. We do not regulate impervious surface in the city of Cranston. We have a building lot coverage, but that only applies to the building itself, not to the driveways or other paved areas. The one requirement we have that is relevant is that when a house is approved, they have to show that they're not making the stormwater situation worse. So, and as Frank Correo spoke to this before, they just have to show a plan to manage the water that will land on the roof of their proposed structure.
Any other questions for staff?
If I may also speak to Kathleen's concerns about the omission of some information. You mentioned maybe like 5 things such as like use, lot coverage, setbacks, and all of those things. Almost by not, asking for relief, they are proposing to comply with the standards per the subdivision. So if they are approved for this subdivision with 2 4,800 square foot lots, in that they're not additionally asking for relief from setbacks. So their setbacks, upon the approval of this subdivision, they are required to have conforming setbacks, conforming dimensional regulations.
I would just say that we recently had a matter that came before us at the last meeting where a subdivision was approved with no relief sought. And subsequently, they went to the zoning board to seek relief. So I don't think that provides enough assurance to me that that might not happen anyway.
That was an interesting case because they applied as a administrative subdivision. Yeah.
One quick thing, Ms. Valcourt responded to my questions by providing a document to me that's written, so I'll just read it. On 2 family lots on the 400-foot radius, there are 14 undersized, 5 under 4,800 feet. And in the 200-foot radius, there's 3 undersized and 1 under 4,800 feet. Thank you. That does answer my question. And does anyone have anything else to say? And then we'll just start talking and doing motions and stuff. Okay, I'll just start. Generally, when I review these kinds of proposals, when I look at the density issue, first I look at what's in the future land use map. Is it above, below? In the existing neighborhood? And then thirdly, sometimes I will look at the lots in that area. This is clearly above the future land use map density. Future land use map is 10.89. This is in the range of, I think, 13.64, and by 25% more. The existing area, sometimes if the existing area is above the future land use map, I'll go with it. The existing 200-foot area is 8.86. I know the public comment was like, you're focusing on percentages and numbers. The reason I do that is because it actually is relevant for deciding whether or not something is subject to the comprehensive plan. Which is one element, really two elements here. Then I look at the lot size issue. And at times I've gone with it, like I've done it in Dale Ave and some other places. But here, it's not clear to me that a majority of the lots in this area are 4,800 feet or below. They may be undersized, but they're not 4,800 feet or below. So this is actually going lower than what is common in that area. So I'm inclined not to vote for it because of its inconsistency. But what bothers me the most, and I do take public comment from everybody and listen to it intensely, the best I can, is we have an obvious flooding issue over here. I don't think anybody can deny it. To me, for me to even want to vote for this, I could not vote for this unless I knew for sure that there was an adequate stormwater management plan related to this property so that it would not increase the runoff into this area. I do not want to approve it and then see the plan. I want to, if I'm going to approve this, I want to see the plan first and then approve it. That's just me. And I'm not trying to be like, look, I've approved homes on undersized lots before, but you guys are in a kind of a difficult situation. I don't see neighborhoods that look like this, like Aquaman stuff. You know, this is bad. And it's not your fault. And I know this whole problem with the city and this thing and all that. And it's not the developer's fault either. But so I'm not inclined to vote for this. I'll listen to my colleagues. I'm not inclined to vote for it based on density. And I'm certainly hesitant to vote for it because we're putting the cart before the horse by not seeing the stormwater management plan ahead of time. So that's why I'm not supportive of it. Thank you. Anyone else have anything they want to say? Commissioner Lanfear?
All right, now I'll put this in the category of beating a dead horse, but I'm just going to, again, I find that there are some things that should be included that are not. And in the checklist, there is also a requirement, and I believe it's number 20, that certification by a Rhode Island registered professional engineer that the proposed conditions plan is correct. And if you look at the proposed conditions plan, which was just submitted, I think a day ago, there is no stamp by a registered engineer. It's prepared by a surveyor, as they are allowed to do, but the checklist appears to require certification by a Rhode Island registered professional engineer, unless that was on a different document. But what I see in the packet, there is no certification.
Most of our minor subdivisions are just plans prepared and submitted by a land surveyor, a professional land surveyor.
That's it. Okay. One other thing I just want to say before, and by the way, so people know this, I don't know anybody here over here, like you guys. I don't know you. Mr. Bosch, I've met you maybe 10 years ago. Nice person, great. And I remember voting for your applications on other projects in the past. So this is not personal, it's just strictly fact-based and how I view it, so you understand. Any other comments or discussion before we take motions? Okay. All right, the first motion would be whether or not to deny or approve or deny a zoning variance, correct?
And with the zoning variance, you would be able to take into consideration the reasons for approval, your findings for zoning variance, which would be, comprehensive plan.
If I deny it, it would be like.
Correct,
so-
everything that's in the staff memo
That's
regarding the
right, right. So
standards.
it would be, if you approve it, you just follow staff recommendation, approve it, or if you deny it, it's basically denial based on inconsistency.
Or whatever you.
Whatever's really like.
Yeah, whatever you find.
Yeah, it would be like, for me, it would be number 2 over here about
So that
the
would,
requested would not be general character or intent of the comprehensive plans.
correct, should someone wish to deny it, that would be the
Right,
form of
that
the
part.
motion.
Okay. All right, guys, how you want to proceed?
I make a motion that we approve the zoning variance based on the recommendation of the staff.
Okay. Motion made by Director Carrero for approval. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Commissioner Zadalis. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of granting the variance, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay. Okay, so we're going to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Mr. Barberi, Mr. Zadalis, Mr. Carrero. All those opposed say nay. Mr. Exter, myself, the president, and Commissioner Lanfear. So, Mr. Marcel, we have a 3-3 tie here.
The motion does not pass.
Okay, so the problem with this now is if I made a motion to deny, I don't think it would pass either.
Correct.
So I ask for your guidance. Do we continue this to next month, or is it by us not granting it, it's approved, or?
We haven't had a tie in a long while.
That's why we pay you the big bucks to remember this stuff.
Well, if the motion fails, so right now the floor is open.
Yeah.
So you could continue it, and allow the other planning board members who missed the meeting to view it and ask questions. You could continue it and request information from the applicant that may address some of the concerns that, I tend to agree with Ms. Lanfear regarding some of the necessary items on the checklist. And there's nothing improper with you requesting that the applicant get the appropriate professionals and bring those back to you. Now, the applicant can say, no, I'm not going to do it. I rest on
Okay.
what I submit. That would be the other way.
I understand. So basically, our options are, I could try to do a denial vote and see if somebody switches their mind. 2, we continue it to next month, or 3, continue to next month and request further information for next month.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Lanfear, you had a lot of inquiries that you thought needed to be addressed. Is there something that you would like to, I know you're doing this kind of like off the top of your head, but is there certain things in the checklist that you would like to see provided to us before next month meeting, assuming we continue this to next month meeting?
Thank you. I'm sure that if I had adequate time to go through these one by one, I could tick off a number of them.
Correct.
However, those that I did raise were under proposed conditions and plans, section D, D1, location, size, and use / type of proposed buildings and structures, including proposed number of residential units per building, if applicable, and include all accessory structures, building setbacks, and total lot coverage.
If I may, if this exercise, if you feel this exercise is going to be incomplete, Brianna, when was the certificate of completeness? How much time do we have?
This thing was December the 10th.
So you could just continue it 1 month and then next month, come back with a list of items that you know, that the board believes it needs. You could do it now. You could just do a straight continuance, come back with what requests that the board needs. And at that time, you know, you'd have the other applicant rather than you trying to go through the checklist on what may or may
Why
not
don't
be
you,
needed.
because the time period ends, the 90 days ends sometime in the middle of March.
Correct. So we have two months.
Okay, so.
Well, we have 1 month. at least
1 month. So that
yeah.
was gonna say, why don't you, I think, Solicitor Marcel, I think she should mention like 3 or 4 things she wants to
Okay.
see now. And assuming one of my colleagues on the other side want to support it.
Yep.
Then we vote for that, to request that from the applicant and continue it to March.
Correct. Yeah, that would be the best practice.
Okay.
And then obviously the applicant, should they
Could-
wish, could always agree
Withdraw.
to continue it, you know,
Or control, yeah,
go
withdraw to
that another
continue.
30
Right.
days.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lamb. Look, some of the ones that are the most important. So you said
All
D1.
right, that was the first.
Yep.
The second one is D20, which is certification by a Rhode Island registered professional engineer that the proposed conditions plan is correct.
Actually, would just like make a quick comment on that. That is a requirement for the final plan.
But Joe, they can ask for it now.
They can ask for it earlier?
They can ask for it. The applicant can supply it if the applicant wants.
Okay, I also want to say, so typically, the professional engineer certification is if there is a specific item that would require an engineer stamp. So with the plan as it is, I don't believe, and maybe Frank can
Well, I would
clarify too, but,
also say, and I am not an engineer and I'm not a planner, so it may be my lack of expertise that brings me to what I'm about to say. But I found that the plans that were provided for this were very different and lacked a lot of specificity than what we generally see in a preliminary plan. I realize that part of that has to do with scale, but I think that a lot of the information is still helpful to what is before us. And I think the applicant has heard a lot of what it is we're looking for. And a lot of it relates to the physical property itself, the soil, the contours, stormwater management, and things of that nature that are real concerns for general welfare and determining whether or not it's appropriate to do what you are asking us to approve. So what we're asking for is more information.
Commissioner Lampier, so I'm just trying to make it sure that's clear if we make a motion.
Yes.
So you have a motion as you want the D1 that you mentioned earlier, the D20, which is was the engineer stuff. Is there anything else you want to say? Like the slope and this and whatever? Just trying to move that,
Yes, no.
I know it's difficult to do it on
I'm
the
just
fly.
looking for the way it is worded here, which is much more succinct than I would be if I tried
Yeah.
to say it myself.
Well, and it sounds like you're asking the department to double check the full list.
Yes, but I think there are things that we would like to see, such as, there are boundaries and total area of any land classified as unsuitable for development. And I think that,
And my understanding is since you're voting on a discretionary relief that they've requested, your request for information could go beyond what we as a department could require for the subdivision.
I personally would like to have a stormwater management plan myself. I don't know if they can do it in 30 days, but that's what I would want to see. But anyway, what is Commissioner Zadell, you're making, okay, forget it.
I also would just want to say that if the applicant, we can certainly continue this for a month, but the applicant has the ability to agree to a lengthier continuance to get together the information that you think is necessary to present to us so that we can be fully informed and make a decision based on information that we think we should have in front of us.
Yes, sorry, if you could just come up and you have the right to respond. Although public comments closed, you have the right to respond if regarding timeframes, et cetera. So the board's commission's asking for additional information from professionals that you may have to retain. We have 90 days to make a decision. However, you have the right, if for instance, if you need to hire an engineer and that engineer can't get to you for another 40 days, you have the right to agree to extend that 90-day period to another 30 days to allow you to present evidence to the board that may obviously further, your application. But statutorily, this board has to make it, can only really continue this one more month. So it's, I don't want to say it's your call because they're going to make a motion to continue, but it is certainly your ability to extend that 90-day period to allow you time to get professionals that you may not be able to get in the next 2 weeks or whatever.
So I guess, can I ask 2 questions?
Sure.
So one is, I need to understand what you're requiring, right? Because from past bills, a lot of these stuff, especially for minor subdivision homes, not allowed. The preliminary stuff is typically what's asked of, right? So in this situation, I understand, Ms. Lempier, that you're requesting more stuff, right? So I guess what I need in terms of clarity is what you're looking for exactly, just like Mr. Fry stated that if you have 3 or 4 suggestions, I would like to hear in clarity what those 3 or 4 suggestions are. And then in regards to Mr. Marcella's question in terms of time, I guess it's going to come down to based on what's required, right? Right now, I guess I could agree on 30 days. But then if that's not enough time, am I okay to reach back out to the city and request an extension if needed, just to make sure that I provide enough information that the councilman and councilwoman are looking for?
Yes, absolutely. You would, should you wish to extend the period of time, you would just send in a written, a letter or an email to the planning department, allowing an extension of time.
Perfect.
Okay. Me personally, I'd like to have a stormwater management plan.
So in regards to, I'll take care of that.
I don't know if my other colleagues want to do it, but that's what I would want. I don't know, Commissioner Lampier had a couple of things. The one on the D checklist, D1 and D20 is what she said so far.
D1.
Instead of repeating all of that, if you look at that checklist, which is on the website, it's D1 and D20.
D1.
Okay.
Mr. Correa, Frank Correa. Sorry about that. Does the rain garden, that's a form of our stormwater assistance. Are you looking for anything further as well from a DPW standpoint, or does that suffice? And I just need to make sure that's clarified within the planning.
Again, I don't want to find the right words. I don't want to say we're manipulating the regulations, but it seems like we're going above and beyond what we would normally do for a checklist. For
So
this
he can't-
stage,
he
for
can't-
this stage of the process.
You can't design a stormwater plan without designing the house and having the roof size and doing the calculations. So we are requiring a significant investment in design before rendering a decision of whether the lot will even could be considered for building.
Correct, and that was one of the things I'm trying to stress. There's a lot of upfront money that needs to be expended in order for these things to be done. And I'm just saying, I don't want to go too far outside the realm of what we're required to allow or to ask for at this stage of the game. I mean, a stormwater management plan, that's usually for a subdivision of a larger size, a single lot of 4,800 square feet. A stormwater management plan is not something you would normally see, and I'm not sure an engineer would know what to do with it because that doesn't really fall into the realm of what a stormwater management plan is. They can design a rain garden to say, based on the potential building that's being proposed, it's just so many square feet. They come up with that number over 1 inch of rain over that roof that gets drained from the downspouts that end up into this rain garden, and that needs to be sized and designed based on soil conditions and whatever you have for elevations and whatever volume of water that would ultimately make it. So it's really just designing the rain garden more so than a stormwater management plan. That's pretty extensive when you talk about stormwater management plan and operations and maintenance plan. The same thing, that just requires whatever plantings you put in there, that they are maintained at that stage and you continue to maintain that. One of the things I want to caution you about is when you do that, you're also asking the potential property owner that purchases this property in the future that they are signing on to make sure that they meet the requirements of that operations and maintenance plan in perpetuity.
To make sure that it's from, the rain garden is pretty much cleaned out, based off the stuff that I read, cleaned out, maintained over the course of
Correct.
time.
Every year, they're supposed to submit something that shows they did X, Y, and Z to ensure that this still functions and is able to address the capacity of water that's coming off of that structure.
One thing in response, Director Crowe, and I don't pretend to be a stormwater management person at all. I'm not an engineer. My thing is, and I have not been a stormwater, like, I don't like, you can't do a development unless I have a stormwater on what, stormwater management on this 1 or 2 houses. The reason this jumps up at me is because of this particular situation. I have a hard time ignoring the rainwater problem there. And I feel uncomfortable approving something without a robust, clearly articulated stormwater management plan. Is it unusual what I'm doing by saying that? Absolutely. I think that neighborhood's in an unusual situation.
So, yeah, so Steve, in other towns, and Mr. Correa will back this up, they do require stormwater management and engineered stamp plans at the preliminary plan stage.
Again, that is something they require. It's something that we don't require, but as we said,
But
we
it-
have the ability to ask.
But it's at the preliminary plan stage. It's on the state. It's on the state checklist. It can be required at preliminary stage, and as you know, it is in other places. In most other places, actually.
I
So-
think in this situation it's not like we're willy-nilly imposing it all over the city here. I've never done that before. It's because of this situation. So I think I'm justified in saying I want to be like the rest of the state and have a stormwater management plan and engineering approval and all this other stuff at preliminary plan stage for this particular neighborhood. I'm not trying to set a precedent, Director, for like, oh, they're gonna do a development in Alpine Estates and, I need a stormwater management plan kind of thing. That's what I'm saying.
But that's also another issue too, is if I did provide all the information, I did provide the information. Now it comes to a point where, all right, I provide all the necessary information, I put all the investment into this to make this happen, coming from the board, coming from the councilwoman, and all of a sudden get rejected. That's my biggest concern. Upfront cost is gonna cost me a lot of money upfront. If it was something that was guaranteed, saying, all right, you know what, this could definitely happen, as long as you provide us all the information, I'm willing to bite the bullet and put the investment up front. That doesn't bother me. It's, all right, me putting the investment up front, then all of a sudden get rejected. Now, my funds are gone.
I understand, I can't prejudge, I can't prejudge. I think you've heard my view. The good news for you is that Commissioner Coop is not here. And Commissioner Coop, you have to see what he has to say next month. He'll hear it if we can, we continue it. So I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I have a real problem with this, I think and I certainly have a big problem unless there's a stormwater management plan up front. I think I made that kind of clear,
Can we make that the defining
I can't say, I can't make a,
No, I'm not saying define in terms of making a decision, but in terms of what you prefer upfront for the next meeting versus all the other necessary stuff that's typically after preliminary stuff.
I think
you
what,
guys are just asking for a lot upfront versus.
I think Commissioner Lampier has said that she wants the information on the D1 checklist, the D20 checklist, and I want some kind of stormwater management plan. I think that's where I've heard so far. And you can decide if it's reasonable or unreasonable. We'll continue it to next month. There'll be possibly one new commissioner. There'll be one commissioner here who's not here. There could be another one, you know, who could be appointed. So, but this is what I can speak for us right now. Because we don't violate the other thing, so people don't believe this, but we don't violate open meeting. So I can't like, oh, I know what that person's doing and this one's gonna do. You understand what I'm saying? Okay.
And if I could just
To
add one
Commissioner
other thing. I know what he's trying to accomplish, but as a developer or a builder, you know what you're gonna be putting onto that parcel of land.
Yes.
So I don't think it's a far stretch to be able to show the structure, the driveway, know the areas that are coming in, and be able to produce that on the site plan that would come in. So it's not a stretch, and
Okay, I think I can make a motion or one of you can make a motion and we can see what happens, which is to continue this to next month's meeting. And request in the interim that the applicant provide information consistent with checklist item D1, D20, and a stormwater management plan. Does that sound pretty much consistent for you, Commissioner Lampier? I'm sorry, what's the date?
I didn't
March?
hear that.
When's the March meeting? March
March
3rd.
3rd.
March
All
3rd.
items will be after the capital budget hearing.
Yes, that'll be after capital. That's a fun thing to be part. So you can skip the first hour or two. March 3rd, so this would be continued to the March 3rd meeting with requests for more information consistent with the D1 checklist, the D20 checklist, and a stormwater management plan. Okay, I'll make that motion. Seconded by Commissioner Lampier. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Passes unanimous. We'll see you next month. All right, thank you. If you want to stay here for the subdivision regulations, you're more than welcome. But before we get to that, I want to take a moment for a recognition of members on our agenda. Sorry I had to postpone this, but tonight we wanted to recognize the service of Commission Plan Member Nicole Renzulli. Commissioner Renzulli is now working in the mayor's office. And the first time I've known her a few years, but what I know of her when she was younger was that she was a star athlete at West. And to be a star athlete, you got to be dedicated and have talent. And clearly she's an emerging star here in public service here in Cranston. In her short political public service career, she's been a leader in the legislative branch. She's been an active member in the quasi-judicial body. And now she is in the executive branch as the communications director. So we know your time here has been short with us, but you certainly were an active participant. And before you leave, we wanted to give you some recognition as you head on to bigger and better things. So I just wanted to give you this certificate on behalf of all of us. Okay, Commissioner?
Thank you.
That's a version of me giving a nice speech. Just take a quick 1-minute recess while we get ourselves reorganized here. Okay. When the staff is ready for subdivision regulations, we'll get going. I thought we'd be out of here 8:30, but I think we got another hour. Mr. Bergman, please give us a little intro before we take public comment on the amendments to the subdivision regulation. And I know there's people still here, please try to keep the noise down while we get this going. Go ahead, Jonas.
All right. Just going to give a brief overview for both members of the commission and the public that may be seeing this for the first time, since this is the official public hearing. We have discussed the subdivision regulations over the last few months, going over it again and again. I'm not getting picked up. Let me just move this. Okay. And most of the changes that are in the subdivision regulations were from the 2025 session, and specifically from the one bill that I've on the screen right here. That's for most of the changes that we're listing as like required changes in our table. Though there's also discretionary amendments that we added, either that the planning staff recommended, a couple from the fire departments, from the public works, and also some from members of the city planning commission. For ease of use, we did make a guide table that kind of shows where we made the changes. Were they required by the state, by state law, or are they recommended changes? We also added, what it is and why we added it, or why it was recommended. So from the 2025 bill, some of the most important things, the most notable things were this new type of subdivision, which is an oversized lot subdivision, which is a type of minor subdivision that is only administrative, basically allows a developer or a landowner to subdivide a lot that is considered oversized compared to the neighborhood. And there's very specific categories where you qualify for that. But this commission will largely not see that. That's mostly an administrative type of subdivision. Additionally, pre-application meetings are going to be now optional, so only the applicant can request those, not the city planning commission, not the administrative officers anymore. State permits that are now required at the final plan for major subdivisions and land developments. There's an option for minor subdivisions if the commission that we could potentially still require those at the at the preliminary plan stage rather than the final plan stage, but that will be discussed later. Another change was the expiration of the final plan approvals are now 2 years instead of 1, and there's also some changes to required findings of fact that also will affect this commission specifically. Not so much the first part, but the second part specifically, there's some changes to how they, to the language in some of the findings, and also how, as we've seen the previous one, for example, under unified development, there's instead of 4 categories that we have to review, 4 findings that we have to review for dimensional variances, it's only 3 now. Some discretionary changes that we recommended were that we clarified fees, that the planning staff specifically recommended this. We clarified fees for applications for when we combine review stages. That's something that's been kind of unclear, so we did recommend some language on how that would be clarified. We created 2 categories for minor subdivisions fees. So we've always kind of treated all minor subdivisions as the same in the past. But now some of the minor subdivisions are actually taken care of administratively while some go to the board. But the fees are still the same. And to us, these usually take very different amounts of time. We usually spend way more time on the ones that go to the board. So we decided splitting them up would make much more sense, just time-wise. We also integrated design standards from our DPR ordinance into our subdivision regulations to create kind of like a uniform standard, because for some reason there were some standards in our DPR regulations that were different from the standards in our subdivision regulations. There's still more work that needs to be done. So there's some stuff in there, but we need more time to work on more like to update our design standards to really meet best practices, specifically when it comes to landscaping and street lights, and some roadway stuff as well. And then something that specifically the fire department recommended that I wanted to highlight was this requirement for cisterns for new subdivisions. We've had some issues in the past where some subdivisions came through, but they didn't install cisterns. But this is actually a fire department policy, so hopefully going forward, all new subdivisions without access to public water will have a requirement to build these cisterns. Here's also a lengthy list of some discretionary amendments that we've worked on since December 2nd. Part of that was a recommendation to increase like filing fees by 25%. Then also some minor changes like where the oversized lot subdivision language lives in the regulations. Some checklist items were added as well. And we also worked on updating the sidewalk requirement, where previously the sidewalks were only required under very specific circumstances or if the board requested it. Now we've changed that to make them required for most new subdivisions, and then provide some conditions for the waivers. And also a requirement for curb to curb repaving, which even seen in the previous subdivision, it's something that we very often require as a condition, but we've never explicitly put it in our regulations. This would actually formalize that requirement rather than always having us remember to condition that. And we did notice there's a couple other things that we added a little bit last minute. So these are things that we added very last minute, some things we added or are recommending to add. And one of them, just very small language change that is actually quite impactful, which is this institutional category for expansions in minor subdivisions, which language-wise also applies to major subdivisions, but that was, I guess, somewhat an oversight. We have some, it basically, by not having that in our regulations, we are missing out on, there are certain very specific projects. I think the sample I gave, like assisted living facilities would actually not fall under planning review if those came through. So that's why we recommended that we add that. Yeah, I also added a recommendation for public comment. One more thing that was added to the specific draft was public comment requirement during the public meeting for preliminary plan. Right, and then one very minor change at the end as well, which is something we must have missed in previous drafts as well. There's a couple other things that we are also last minute recommending as well. One of them was just take full responsibility for is a complete oversight on my part. This is actually a state law change. that definitely should be in here. Specifically, that was what I mentioned earlier. That speaks to, when it comes to dimensional variances that fall under UDR, that second finding, which is that that self-created hardship finding cannot be used to deny projects anymore, specifically for dimensional variances under UDR. For use variances, I guess it still applies, but not for dimensional. And the other one was also kind of a minor oversight. Content-wise, it was fine. There was a state law change, specifically in the bill that changed most of the other things in our regulations. That previously, when we made our findings, we also had to make findings around the general purposes that are cited in state law, but the General Assembly decided to get rid of that, and so now we only need to find not only specifically the findings, the 5 findings for approvals for subdivisions. So right here you see the existing language. So I must have just cut it out and then forgot to reword the sentence. So here I'm rewording the sentence to have it make sense. I'm also, instead of listing every single potential permitting authority, I just simplified it to authorized permitting authority. And yeah, everything else will be in the major draft that we have up on the website, and should be highlighted on the table as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bergen. Before I open up public comment, I know you all here have been anxious to make public comment, but I just had two small questions to the staff that could be typographical errors. Obviously, there's like little things always happening here, and I keep reading it, and so I keep finding things, so it's.
That's our problem too.
All right, so just want to see if this is a typographical error or not. On page 18 of 125, and if you have it before, you let me know. I'll ask you the question.
Go ahead.
Okay. It says, it gives a definition, project classification for minor subdivision. A subdivision creating 9 or fewer lots where a street extension or street creation is required. Should it not be not required for a minor subdivision? Or am I wrong, solicitor, or? I'll read it. The definition in our regs for minor subdivision is a subdivision creating 9 or fewer buildable lots where a street extension or street creation is required. Isn't it not required, correct? I don't mind having, go ahead. It would be a major, right?
If it's required.
No, if it's 9 or fewer buildable lots. If it's 10 or more buildable lots, that's a major. If it's 9 or fewer and it needs a street extension, that's a minor subdivision.
Minor, but not administrative.
Correct. So I did not separate, to be clear, I did not separate those categories. They're still all minor subdivisions. The state has decided to make it as confusing as possible.
See, it confused me. Thank you. All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So whether it's minor or not, whether it's minor or major is the number of lots, whether it's administrative or I'll call it, planning board procedural, has to do with essentially what the subdivision does, street extension, other type of necessary variances, et cetera.
You've explained it. I understand now. Okay. Page 35. When you get there, let me know.
Okay.
Go to the final sentence on that page. It says the resulting lots are not less than 3,000 square feet, and in the parentheses is 3,000 feet too.
Yeah, that probably should be a square rather than a.
Okay.
So that's just typographical.
Okay. That's all it is.
Yep.
See, I was nothing substantive, guys. Don't worry. All right. Is there any other final questions or comments to the staff before we open up to the public for their commentary on these? Go ahead, Director.
the one thing that keeps confusing me is this word, any subdivision. The property we just did, isn't that a subdivision? So are we
Correct.
saying that's potentially not gonna come before the planning commission anymore, based on your determination?
That project only came before the planning commission because it requires relief.
Zoning relief.
Zoning relief. It doesn't, otherwise, that would have been an administrative, if they had the 8,000 square feet and the 6,000 square feet,
Yeah,
you
and
would have
it- and
never
if-
seen
yeah,
it.
If there was no house on, because the house needed release. So if it was if it was a 16,000 square foot one lot, Beth could have done it administratively.
Okay, which I guess if Mr. Bozy decides to sell that piece of property they can do nothing with, they could have bundled all 4 of those lots and then they would not have to come before us.
Yeah, but keep in mind that that's because when there's structures on it, things get convoluted, especially, again, what Mr. Bozy said, you build a house and you have enough land for a 2-family, and then you cut off half of the land once you get the CO and ask for it. So in other words, you're now creating a nonconformity that you didn't have.
Right, so that's no longer the finding of facts. I
Yeah.
mean, it goes without saying that the proposal is for relief, is creating a need for relief. But
All set? Okay. Any other last minute questions? Okay, we will now open up for public comment on the regulations, the draft regulations. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Don't be shy. I know that's what you're here for.
Hello again. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Christina Brown. Okay. I live at 217 Armington Street in Cranston. One of my first comments, you did clarify in terms of the subdivision with the street, which was your clarification. So thank you for that. That writing is confusing. The other comments I have, I'll keep them brief because it's getting very late, but under the new additions to subdivision required documents and checklist, number 12 and number 13 on page 44 of at least the copy that I have, an estimate of the number of school-aged children to be housed in the proposed subdivision development. I'm very concerned about this in terms of, are you going to use this to deny projects based on the potential number of children that could possibly be in that housing? And I would like to know how you expect to determine what a developer is supposed to come to you with that number. In my experience living in Rhode Island and in Cranston, you can have a 1-bedroom unit where you have a single mother living with her child. You could have a 2-bedroom unit where you have a family of 4. You could have a 3-bedroom unit. You could have a house. Many of our homes are now inhabited by single elderly people with no children. So how is a developer who is there as an expert on building and developing structures supposed to be a demographer and a predictor of the future of who might possibly be the household and the demographics of that household who will eventually buy or rent that unit? I strongly object to this. I do think that there is case law precedent of developers suing municipalities for denying projects based on their assumption that there will be an influx of children in these properties. I just strongly object to this and would like to know more about the rationale and what you expect the developer to do. As a Rhode Island taxpayer, I know that my taxes go to paying for planning staff that has credentials and expertise and are looking at census data and are projecting population trends and demographic data. I also pay for the statewide planning office that is obligated to give us projections. Your role is to mitigate growth and manage growth of the city. And I feel like pushing this onto the developers is not appropriate at all. I feel similarly to the fiscal impact that you're requesting. We should, as a city, have staff and personnel that understand the fiscal impact of development that should not be put on to the developer who is going to build housing or any other structures in our community. We should have robust staff that knows what that fiscal impact should be. I know for myself, as a parent of 2 children in Cranston who goes to public schools, I want to see more families live in my community. I don't think projects should be denied based on that. And the way that this is worded, I have a real fear that that is where we're going with these 2 requirements. That is the end of my comments.
Next.
Hello again. Do I need to sign in again? Or my name is already there? Yes, again? Okay. Annette Bourne, 51 Community Drive. I'm gonna wax a little philosophical at the outset here because what are we here for? We're here about being a city. We are here about whether we're growing or creating community. Some communities in Rhode Island are declining, including their childhood population precipitously. Tiverton is actually paying a bond on a school that they built that they are now closing. So just want to keep that in mind. So as I read through the subdivision regulations, this particular idea that school children is the most important thing that a developer needs to bring an estimate for. There's something about it being kind of anti-community to me, that we are thinking that school children are somehow the ruination of what we are going to be as a community. I will remind people again that there are fair housing laws that protect families. There's a case in Arlington, Virginia, where the city had to pay, or maybe county, $95,000 in a fair housing lawsuit because of the idea that the development was being prevented because of the number of school children. Massachusetts courts have also held in this position, and our director of planning knows those situations as well. So similar to Christina's comments, this is the job of a municipality. If this is what we want to do, then we need to devise what the methodology is, because honestly, every household brings something. If we decide that we're going to do a 55 and older community, are we going to decide whether or not there are going to be more ambulance calls to that development? Every household brings something. So to just identify school children, I think, is a very dangerous path. If we are going to devise that methodology, I would ask that there be a threshold to it as well. Let's not make it for every minor subdivision. If we have, 400 units or 400 bedrooms coming in, maybe that is a threshold. But I would ask that our professional staff, consult and make those decisions, perhaps with other municipalities, perhaps with other states. And we should definitely consult with fair housing lawyers. Thank you very much.
Next.
Good evening, Robert Murray, 75 Debbie Drive, Cranston. I'm here tonight representing myself, nobody in particular, but as you know, I appear here on a regular basis representing applicants, developers, property managers, and I'm here tonight to comment on those items that have been posted. I know some things were changed today, and I apologize, I was unaware of that. I'm not really focused on those. I heard what they were, but I think my comments are more directed towards some other issues. So I'll defer on those right now. I want to try and do this in some order. I will save for the end my grave concerns that Annette raised concerning your checklist for fiscal impact statements and school-aged information. Way out of bounds and hopefully built to a crescendo. Let me first start by saying I appreciate the efforts that Beth and Jonas and the staff have tried to undertake over the past many months, trying to update these things. The chart that was provided was a good effort to try and make sense of the changes. I took the chart, I looked for the changes, and it was very helpful. So I appreciate their efforts every day, but certainly in this effort, trying to be responsive to the commission and the changing dynamics of what we're doing. Let me start first with the regulations, just a few minor things. Some were addressed a moment ago, but that comment on page 18 about the minor, I forget who asked it, I think Chairman did. I'm still not clear on it because, well, we have a definition and then we have on page 18 a chart, I think. I'm unclear in that chart where subdivisions that are 9 or fewer with no street extension, that category. I don't think it's in there. There are various categories, and tomorrow I'd be happy to, you may act tonight on this, but I'll try and put this in some order for the staff. But as I looked at that, I think that category is missing, but I'll defer. You would be disappointed if I didn't comment on page 21. The 25% increase in fees. I'm not saying fees should not be increased. I'm not sure if there was any rationale or dartboard used to pick 25, but I note that there are increases in fees and those things get passed on to the ultimate end users when we raise fees through the development process. Just a general comment for Jonas, I talk about this a lot, but we have an owner affidavit as part of the online portal, which I totally understand. You want evidence that the property owner knows that there's a subdivision or a land development project for their property. Right now, I hate to date myself, under the old process, an applicant would sign an application too. Right now, if we don't require the application, and that seems to be up in the air right now based on the other day, you have submissions being made where an applicant is not affirming to the information being provided. So I just throw that out for your consideration. We seem to focus on the owner affidavit, but how do you know the applicant, is the applicant standing behind the submission? So I bring that to your consideration. There were some of the changes that were noted on the cheat sheet. When I went to them, I couldn't find them being highlighted, but I don't think they're big deals. But like on page 47, we adjusted language to state law, but I'm not quite sure where it was highlighted. Same thing with page 62. And then we ran into some trouble. I don't know if it's just formatting, but when you get down to the bottom of the cheat sheet, the page numbers in the document that was online with the cheat sheet didn't line up. But I don't, I was able to find them, but I just note that. So I want to focus on if you don't mind, just bear with me a second. Those were kind of the regulation comments I had, I believe. I also, what I tried to do when these were posted and this was heading towards this meeting, I did, and Beth and I have talked about this. I try and share this with people, that I deal with, shareholders, stakeholders, and, so I circulated everything and they appreciated me filling up their emails. And, I got some comments back, but I didn't get, a lot of substance. I frankly encouraged them to come tonight so I wouldn't have to carry their water. But in fairness, I'm not really offering any comments on the landscape standards or, it's just not my thing. And and I know the director, we have some new standards for sidewalks. I don't necessarily have a problem with it because I think I kind of like the fact that there are circumstances when the director can issue some relief and then you can still come to the planning commission. So I'm going to hold on those. I think they're workable. The cistern thing is new. I've dealt with the fire department on that, both in Cranston and other communities. My hope is that any projects I'm involved in will be available for public water and we won't have to fight about the size of the cisterns, but we'll see what happens. And then if I could just take a moment, I'll come back to let me just go to the checklist, see if there's anything I missed. I apologize. There's just too many. I have no comments on the administrative checklist, so let's take that off the board. On the minor and major, under required documents on page 2 of 9, Jonas, it says a certified radius package from the tax assessor's office. I always get my radius packages from the tax assessor's office. I'm just not quite sure what a certified one is. I don't know if that's a term of art or.
If it comes from the tax assessor's office, it's the real thing.
I didn't hear the last part.
If it comes from the tax assessor's office, it's the real thing.
Okay, I agree, but
Yeah.
I just didn't know whether we're required to have.
We've had people pull their own address lists from the GIS, and the
Okay,
town of,
that's fine.
other
All right,
towns allow that, we do not.
It was just a term of art that jumped out at me, which kind of, just bear with me here. The next item I had on the checklist. Page 5, I'm looking at the minor, but I think it's on the other one. When you're looking for utility plans, you want include proposed utility easements stamped by a engineer. My experience, and I'll defer to Mr. Corrao, is that there are instances in development where, for example, Rhode Island Energy or National Grid, they do not give you their, you apply for service and those connections after you're approved, and then they will send you their form, easements and things like that. I don't know, and some of it involves paying money to Rhode Island Energy for them to, so I'm just questioning whether or not, it's one thing if my client is declaring an access easement on their property, we can prepare that. I'm just concerned about when we say proposed utility easements, there may be circumstances whether it's a public utility, they may trail later on. I don't know if you know what I'm explaining.
No, I'm just trying to think, are you talking about an easement on private property or public property? Because on public property, they have the right and there are no easements. The easements are only drawn up once you go onto private property.
I agree with that. Like if they needed, I'm doing it for Garden City right now where, they need to put a new, transformer in and they want Garden City to sign. I mean, that's not a land of, but and we may not be able to resolve this tonight. I just point out that
So
it's sequencing that I'm concerned about.
the intent of the addition is typically what I guess when we put this in, what we were mostly thinking of is on private property. If someone needs to bring in, I don't know, like a power line or a water line through someone else's property, and now they need to get an easement on that property. I guess we were not really thinking about like I guess was your question more about like the major overhead kind of situations,
Whether it's
or
underground or overhead, for example, I'll give you an example, which I think I'm correct on, because I have a client buying a lot. If you recall the 5-lot subdivision off Late Night Road, Larry Moses is doing, okay? You approved the 5-lot subdivision. He subsequently granted Rhode Island Energy easements, because it's a private road, in the for the conduit underground, and but that happened after the fact. That was a condition of Rhode Island Energy. So I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but all I'm just saying is I think.
I mean,
it's one thing where, like, for example, next month, the commission is going to see a subdivision where I provided you a draft of an access and utility easement that my client is declaring on their property. Okay, I have no problem with that scenario. It's the outside agencies. If you're requiring somebody to go get a utility easement before its time is right, that's.
Yeah, I agree that we shouldn't be asking you to anticipate future proposals
Right, so,
that haven't been made
okay.
yet.
All right, let's not kill it.
Let's,
On page 7, and these are both major and minor, we talk about a term, final copies of an irrevocable offer to convey to the city all public streets and or other public improvements accompanied by a meets and bounds description. I've never seen an irrevocable offer, but I know irrevocable means you can't revoke it. So there could be a situation where somebody makes an irrevocable offer and then something has to change, and I don't know how we get it back. But if the intention is traditionally in a subdivision, when we go to record a final subdivision, we do quitclaim deeds for streets, for example, okay, when we record the subdivision. Then, obviously a bond is posted. The city's not accepting that street, but, there are 2 ways, as I understand it, to have a street created. One is by conveyance, or it's on an approved city map. That's my limited knowledge of that, but I'm just questioning this terminology of an irrevocable offer. Maybe Mr. Marcella is in agreement with it, but I'm not quite sure what it means.
No, I mean, normally under the map street ordinance, once we record the map and it's accepted by the planning board, that's kind of the legal mechanism. That's the one I've seen. I don't know. It maybe I've never seen one, but I'm assuming if you deeded a street to the city, I mean, in a certain circumstance, I mean, like if you look at these, for instance, are you looking at the 9-page checklist for minor subdivisions or which?
But it's on the major too, I think.
I know. I mean, again, just doing one that I did as an applicant's attorney, I would say 70% is NA, is not applicable. But, the state and or the planning department put it on there. So, you know, it could be applicable. I can talk to Jonas on the wording on that.
I'm a big fan of NA, so I.
No,
Mr. Murray.
Yeah.
I appreciate all this commentary and the details. Just like, if you have, like, I think this, Mr. Marcel and the staff would certainly work with you on the
Okay.
most nuanced aspects, because I was gonna say, I don't anticipate voting on this tonight.
Okay, well,
Okay.
that's fine. I just, but sometimes you're in the forever.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Mr. Frias,
Yeah.
you allowed someone to speak a long time, and Mr. Murray would like to speak a long time.
I'm sorry, Mr. Murray. Go. That's true. That's true. I'm sorry.
We're now working towards the meat of my discussion.
He's getting to the good part now.
This is where I do my best to not offend the chairman, since most of my comments are directed towards his discretionary add-ons to the checklist. Annette left, everybody left. It was their issue, and I'm like, I'm gonna bring it home.
Do you want to just like, they're not here, you don't have to speak about it if you don't
No,
want to.
let's go right to the meat of it. First, on the fiscal impact statement, whether it's major or minor. I think that's a big ask at that stages that it's being asked for, I've had projects where on my own initiative, I've brought those analysis in because I thought it would be helpful to the commission, but I'm not talking out of school, but I know you people have an appreciation for this, but whether it's a 1-lot subdivision or a 9-lot subdivision, you're telling people they have to do a fiscal impact statement. That means, I take that, mean you have to go find a qualified person to provide that. Okay, you want it on the back of my napkin, I'll do it. But if I have to go hire somebody, my experience is $2,500 gets you 2 pages. You want something real, you're up to $7,500. Is that really what we're trying to do here? And that's a big concern. If you're talking about a major subdivision, okay, I've spent anywhere from $7,500 to $20,000. So I just caution you that, is that really where we're going here when we're trying to create housing? Is it, let's just front load all these expenses that may or may not be necessary. That being said, the school issue. I agree with everything the speakers before me said. I go back to, Rhode Island General Law 452360, which sets forth the standards that you're supposed to be looking at. Nowhere in there is school capacity an issue, nor do I believe it should be. I have listened over many years, probably more recently in the last 3 or 4 years, the people espouse that Cranston schools are over capacity. We can't handle any more kids. I disagree strongly with that premise. I don't think it's based in fact. I think it's inflammatory, and it's really being used as a sledgehammer to try and stop development. It's not an issue that should be taken into consideration and shouldn't be on your checklist. We're in Cranston. I've been waiting for a subdivision to come forward where I can share this information, but I'll give you a preview. For the last year, I've been dealing with the central administration on enrollment. Okay, I have breakdowns by every school. I have breakdowns by every grade. Okay. Norma Cole will come here and tell you that there are no schools that are overcrowded. They don't need to cluster in Weston Cranston. Okay. In fact, we are at the lowest school population that we've been in the last 11 years. Okay. I have data. In the year 2015-16, we had 10,441 children. Last year's October enrollment was 10,037, been very stable, 200 or 300 up or down. The October enrollment last year was 9,906 students. You can go right on the Rhode Island Department of Ed website. Norma was very nice to compile this information. She said, by the way, Bob, if you go to this tab and link on this, you can get the information yourself. So I now do it. So my point is, school population is going down. Okay. And when I look at the breakdown of the individual schools, by grade, okay? I have the estimates that they estimated for last October, the 2025 estimates. I have the actual numbers, and as I said, we're down at least 131 kids overall. But, let's just, everybody jumps on Orchard Farms. Let me find one that works for them. No. Orchard Farms, they estimated 670 kids. In October, there was 669. So, that was, but, whether you look at Hope Highlands, you look at Weston Hills, you look at, Mr. Barberi's, Cranston East is down, according to this, by like 70 kids from what was estimated. Today's population might be different. I can only go by last October. My point is, I think this is a red herring, okay? And its motivation comes from people who, it's partly NIMBY, and I don't think the planning commission should, go down that rabbit hole. We don't worry about a 4-bedroom house on Alpine Estates that some empty nester is now selling and to somebody who may bring in three new kids, okay? We don't limit their ability to replenish the house with kids. Why should we stop new housing based on school age population? The only basis I can come up with is to discourage housing, and that's not what, I don't think that's where we are as in terms of need. This commission has recognized in many ways, the need for, Rhode Island Housing Works has said we need more housing, we need more affordable housing, and that's not the basis on which I think these reforms and regulations should reflect. If I can be a lawyer for a minute, and Annette touched upon it. It's my position the city cannot discriminate against a developer if the school argument is used as a pretext to violate the familial status or racial protections of the Fair Housing Act. While municipalities have the right to manage land use, zoning decisions that target or disproportionately impact families with children or protected minorities under the guise of school overcrowding can be considered illegal discrimination. The Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination based on familial status, which includes the presence of children under 18 in a household. If the city denies a development project specifically because it will bring too many children, it is deemed direct discrimination against families with children. If a city does not intend to discriminate, a policy such as a ban on multi-bedroom units that has a disproportionate, even if a city doesn't, even if a city does not intend to discriminate, a policy such as that has a disproportionate adverse effect on families with children or minorities and is illegal, and claims made under the Fair Housing Act are valid to that extent. There's been recent legal precedents that have rejected the argument that potential increased school-related tax burdens are a valid reason for a city or town to deny a permit for housing. Such denials have been found to be arbitrary or unreasonable when used to exclude residents. A city can make planning decisions based on legitimate, non-discriminatory reasons. However, they must be able to prove that a zoning or development denial is based on valid, factual, and non-discriminatory grounds. Using school crowding as a pretext to prevent affordable family-friendly housing is a common target of Fair Housing Act lawsuits, And I don't think that's where the city wants to go. Those are my thoughts. I appreciate your time. I know you may not vote on this tonight. I'll try and put this in a better order for the staff tomorrow if you don't vote on it tonight, so they can make more sense out of what I said, but I thank you. And have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Is there anyone here else who would like to make public comment? Okay. Is there anyone online who'd like to make public comment? Oh, we got two hands. Okay, go ahead. Monica?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. The previous speaker actually made many of the points that I was going to make, so I'll just briefly let you know I live at 1921 Broad Street in Cranston. I'm the parent of two Cranston Public School students, and I also have serious concerns about the proposed requirement for developers to have to provide an estimate of the number of school-aged children. I really do worry that this may expose our city to liability for familial status discrimination under the Fair Housing Act. I think imposing this requirement, honestly, it can only be interpreted as a message that is really unlawful and discriminatory, that families with children aren't welcome in Cranston. And I don't think that you want to send that message, right? And I also think that it could be costly for our city to do so. As was mentioned previously, the Fair Housing Act does specifically protect against discrimination targeting families with children. There was actually a case just a few years ago that was ultimately settled in Texas, where the municipality had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so that would be the worst outcome, right, that you can imagine for taxpayers in Cranston, to have to end up paying for litigation costs and for these fees. And the other point that I just wanted to make briefly is around some of the economic conditions. I know that there is this concern that an influx of children will increase taxpayer bills, but the trends suggest that we really have as our primary concern this decline in population. Schools nationwide are experiencing these dramatic enrollment declines. There was a study done by the Brookings Institution in 2025 that projected public school enrollment will decrease by about 2.2 million students by 2050. And that may actually be a very conservative estimate, because that one is based just on population declines alone. If you look at the number of parents that are now choosing schools other than traditional public schools, the Hechinger report calculates that schools, traditional public schools, could actually lose as many as 8.5 million students. And of course, that has catastrophic financial implications for cities and towns, because we know that schools have a number of fixed costs, whether those classrooms are full or empty. And we also know that Cranston, certain communities in Cranston, have already experienced the disruption and loss that goes with losing a neighborhood school. And parents are, for obvious reasons, very sensitive to that. And so I don't think most of us would want to see a repeat of any school closures and consolidations. And finally, I just really do believe that we should be welcoming families, not creating barriers to having more families move in. And I say that as a parent of public school children in Cranston. Some of these wonderful programs that we have here in Cranston Public Schools, the economies of scale for these programs don't work if the enrollment continues to decline. So I care about all the same issues that all of you care about. I recognize, that this may very well be well-intentioned, but I just don't think this proposal will achieve the intended goals. And so I really do respectfully urge you to reject this particular proposal. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Next person like to make public comment? Name and address.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Your name and
This
address.
is my first time, so I'm sorry. My name's Michelle Hames. I live on Situate Avenue in Cranston. And I also am wanting to speak about the schools. I remember back when Stonehill had many, many portables in the back before Orchard Farms was built. And I understand all the concerns about capacity. We've faced that a lot in Western Cranston with the growth. But the growth has slowed in Western Cranston, and you're now getting a lot of empty nesters up here because their kids have gone through the school system. And I think requiring new developers to do these impact studies, like others before me have said, really is a discrimination issue. It's really important that we keep families in Cranston because it produces growth and helps our economy and helps our community. And discouraging by saying, oh, well, we got to know how many students are coming in really discourages people from bringing in families. So I just wanted to reiterate what a lot of people said before me.
Can I
Thank
ask
you.
your name again, so I can get it clearly for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle Hames,
Could you spell the last name?
Hames. Sorry, first time doing this.
No problem. Okay, is there anyone else like to make public comment online, Mr. Lima?
There is no other comment online.
Okay, last chance for anyone in the room? Okay, all right, that's will close public comment. Thank you very much. As I said earlier, unless a majority of my colleagues want to vote on these regulations today, I thought the best thing would be is to continue this till next month, March the 3rd. We can get any last minute changes. This has been a kind of a, leaving last minute changes today, we'd like to get a chance to everyone to get it straight and down right. So if that's okay, we could do with that. I do want to just state a couple of quick things because some of the comments are like, there's a couple rhetorical comments that I think are directed at me. So I'd like to just respond like, who is this? What's this behind? So I'll just say it quickly. What is the intent? Are you going to deny projects based on school children? No, I have never said I would deny projects based on school children. I can't deny projects based on school children. And if it's by right, I can't do that. So why am I asking for this information? As I said at the prior meeting, it is important to get information so that the city and the school can properly plan ahead. If we're getting a lot of applications saying there's a large number of developments going on, and there's a large number of children going in an area, the school will then have that information so they can decide as they do their school construction programs, whether or not a certain elementary school needs to be expanded or maybe a school is going to have to be built there. The fiscal impact also goes along with that. The city gets information about there's a development coming, it's going to bring in revenue, it's going to possibly be a net negative. They need to know these things as they make plans for budgeting in the future. All this is about planning. It's not about approval or denial of a project. It's about gaining information. Not afraid of information. I will personally go through all the subdivisions throughout the state to see what other communities require and whether they do this. And I'll provide it and we can have a discussion about it. I do sympathize with a couple of comments that were made to me about, do you really want minor subdivisions to have these sorts of requirements? And I think that there is a good valid point there because when I put this, I copied it from another town that does have it for minor subdivisions. Maybe this should be only for major ones and maybe for rezoning. When there's a rezoning application, I can assure my colleagues, council people ask questions about fiscal impact. They ask questions like that. It does come up. I would appreciate if Mr. Murray, with the data that he has cut from the school department, provided to the planning commission, if you're willing to share it. I'd like to see it myself. I always enjoy getting more information. But we'll consider it and we can talk about it next month. The second thing is just on the issue of fees. Was that a dart? Was the question was asked. At my prior meeting, I indicated that inflation, since these fees were increased about 2007, has gone up about like 50%. The planning department's budget has gone up like 40%, and these are approximates. Property taxes have gone up since then, I think like in the range of a third. It's hard for me to say that fees should not go up. We can argue about how much, but they should. So why did it come up with 25? I spoke to the director Moretti. We talked about this and he suggested 25. Maybe my colleagues don't want to go up to 25. Maybe they want to go less. I don't know. I just think it's difficult not to increase fees after 18 years of no fee increases with the fiscal situation in our city. And that it's hard to explain and justify why these fees have not gone up in 18 years, to me, anyway. So that's the answer. Mr. Murray, if you have an alternative percentage, you know, you can always submit the comment, but that's, yeah, okay. The 3% inflation, yes. But that's my point, is that it's been a long time coming. So I apologize, but I just wanted to respond. I do listen to public comment. I wanted to give you my initial response. And if anybody else has anything they want to say, we can hear it now, or we can just continue it to next month. It's up to you guys. Commissioner Lanfear?
And I'll make this brief because I'll speak to staff and our solicitor about it. But as I went through, I saw that we still have a fee for a stenographer, but I don't know what the process is for having a stenographer present on behalf of the Planning Commission. I know we often have stenographers that the applicant pays for, but we do have a fee. My understanding, with just a brief review with some other people in other communities, Warwick, as an example, I believe has a stenographer at every meeting. A fee of about $350 to $400 pays to have the stenographer there. And then anyone who wants a copy of that transcript would pay for it. But I say that because I don't believe that YouTube is a good, reliable means as a transcript is with a stenographer that certifies that record. And there are times when we take actions that we want that transcript to protect us for things we have done, or abutters may need that transcript, or applicants may need those transcripts. So I will talk about how we might be able to do that so that we have a good record. And also, there are times when we at a meeting go back and forth and come up with suggestions or conditions that later need to be put in a record of decision. And it's difficult for everybody to figure out what was said because there is no transcript. So I would work on something with staff and council, not to increase fees, but to come up with a process so that we can actually use those fees to have a stenographer present at our meetings.
Thank you, Commissioner Lanfear. Anything else people want to add?
We still have a stenographer at zoning.
When we do,
Like the zoning board still has a stenographer.
and thank you for saying that, because there are times where we now sit as the zoning board.
Yeah,
and we don't
correct.
have a stenographer, but the zoning board does when they
Yeah.
act on the same things that we act on.
Can I ask a
Sure.
question about that, Solicitor?
Sure.
Just a cost issue. Like the stenographer, if we had a stenographer here for UDRs or anything.
Yep.
Who would pay for that cost? Would it be the taxpayers or the applicant?
Yeah, the city pays, the city pays the stenographer, and it's usually a minimum of 3 hours. So if they're here for 10 minutes or they're here for 2 hours and 50 minutes, it's a set fee. And then they get an hourly fee after the 3 hours. And that's paid by the city. However, that zoning applications don't have a stenographer, a separate fee, do they?
They do have a schedule of fees. I can't tell you the specifics. I can check on that if it's. a
Yeah,
separate
I'll
fee.
check on if there's a separate schedule of fees for the stenographer for zoning.
Or they
um,
just cover it in the department.
Or if it's part of the budget.
Yeah, I think that's like an important issue, obviously, for the finance director. If we're going to go down that road, unfortunately, Commissioner Lanfear, there's a cost to these things and a cost to the applicant potentially.
And we do have 350 in the subdivision regulations now.
Yeah, it could maybe be helpful covering that, yeah. Anything else before we do a motion for continuance on this matter until March 3rd? Okay, I would entertain a motion to continue this matter to the hearing on March 3rd, made by Commissioner Lanfear. seconded by Commissioner Barberi. Any discussion for the continuance? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. That's the last on the agenda. Director, let's see, is it your report? You want to give us a quick 10 seconds?
Yes, I've anticipated the late hour by providing my report in writing. I think the highlight of the month was the kickoff event for our mixed-use corridors project, and I want to thank Commission President Frias and Lampier for spending the time with the consultants at our kickoff event to help provide some more context about the study areas we're looking at.
Oh, and report from legal, you'll be happy to know that East Greenwich was about 20 days from have their comp plan being expired. So they had to pull, and they specifically pulled the Cranston where they approved, they approved some skeletal plan.
They
So
approved something.
They just approved something, and then for the next 2 years, they'll approve what they really want to approve.
Well, that's right. We're a trendsetter.
We are a
for some
trendsetter,
things.
and we should celebrate that the zoning ordinance amendments that you recommended and sent to city council were approved in January.
So we're up to date until 3 months from now, and then we won't be up to date.
Well, that, you're talking about the state legislation, the
Yes.
the constantly
The
evolving
new
hamster
changes
wheel
that are
of
coming.
law changes, yes. Okay, is there anything else? Otherwise, we'll have a motion to adjourn will be in order. Motion made by Director Carrera for adjournment, seconded by Commissioner Lampier. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. I'll see you next month. Capital budget will be first.